What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings, that beautiful bastard to my right, or I guess my left. It just depends on what angle you're looking at things. Hey, we're going to be with you for the next hour plus, so do us a solid as you come in, whether you're watching live or coming in a little bit later. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications. Bingo, bango, bongo. All three things really do warm our hearts. Chad, we'll jump right into it. The Longhorns and the portal, they never stop. They certainly didn't. They didn't stop last night to this degree. Texas got a commitment from Oregon State receiver Silas Balden. Mm-hmm. I asked, and Blake can attest to this. So I asked Blake because Balden had made his announcement, hey, can we get an updated deal with Silas Balden in, DeAndre Robinson out? And then there were a few other tweaks that he had to make, like there was a comma here and there. So he fixes it. I post it. And in the time it took for me to ask for the one last revision, by the time I actually posted it to the board, it was outdated because then Kendrick Blackshire committed to the Longhorns. And I was like, hey, one more thing to update. So Blake updated the scholarship board last night for the Longhorns about 18 different times because of the little tweaks that we were making, but a lot of stuff happened. Silas Balden in. There it is.
There
Blake
you go.
Out of it. He was like, I'm not even going to have Catch ask for it. I'm just putting it up there.
Just, if you're a Texas fan, just look at the wide receivers. Don't focus on anything other than that for a second. Just that should blow your mind a little bit.
Well, they've got a guy in the far left column, which is seniors, and they've got two in the second far left column, which is juniors. And a month ago, they had none of those. So it's a completely different unit. Let's start talking about Silas Balden for a second, the wide receiver out of Oregon State. Chad, we've talked about him enough times, I think, in the last week or so that my Tony Jones comparison from the mid to late 80s for the Longhorns. By the way, I found him on YouTube.
Yes.
The Arizona touchdown you can find on YouTube where he wins the game like on a 17-yard crossing route over the middle where three guys hit him. And it's like one of the most, it is maybe a top 5 all-time last play of the game Indians in Texas football history. Just that one snippet. And I was like, yep, Silas Balden still looks like Tony Jones to me. I really think he's a really good addition to this football team. And I think he only suffers because Isaiah Bond is kind of thought of as maybe a first-round guy in the 2025 draft. That against him, everybody kind of pales by comparison to a certain degree. But this is a guy that caught 50-plus passes a year ago, over 700 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 on the ground. We mentioned it yesterday. One of the things I love about this guy is against ranked teams, he shows up and balls out, whether it was Washington, Oregon, or who are the rest of the teams on his schedule? Washington State, he had a big game. He did damage against Arizona. Like it just – everybody, UCLA, you name it, they played a gauntlet of a schedule last year for Oregon State, and he was just good against every single good team they had. There's been some talk like maybe he's the replacement for Keelan Robinson, and I don't think Texas fans have a real grasp of how good this guy is. He's an incredibly productive receiver who's done it on the big stage. He's kind of electrifying. The more I watch of Silas Balden, the more I think to myself, I better get in and be the president of the fan club while people are still wondering what the hell is it that the Longhorns just added through the portal.
Well, thanks to the video you put up on orangebloods.com, I might be your secretary at the meeting there. It was impressive to see. Catch, he's one of Sark's favorite words. He's versatile. He's got versatility. Sark loves to say it. And the number one thing is if he's in space and he takes off, it'll take your breath away. It's that kind of speed. It's not just speed. It's the kind of speed you can feel through your television. So that's impressive. The other thing I liked about it, Catch, and the game that you ended up, I think that you ended up pinning up on in your thoughts, I believe it was them against Washington State? Got that right?
I'm looking it up right now. I think that's right.
Oregon State, Washington State.
Washington State.
Yeah. So two of the plays that stood out to me are when he made tough, physical, like body on body kind of catches.
It was Utah. It was against Utah.
Okay. He made, and even more so because of Utah's physicality. Everybody knows what that defense can do. He made 2 catches in that game while being fouled, like while egregiously being fouled. They threw flags on both. One was for pass interference. His jersey's being grabbed. He's able to get off of it and still make a catch. In both cases, he didn't need the flag, by the way. He makes the catch. And then on the second one, this dude comes over the top of him and basically grabs his helmet and tries to rip it off his head while he's catching the football, and he does. Catch. I had a weird guy flash in my head watching him, and it was Steve Smith. He's not as big, but height-wise, he's only like an inch off of where Steve was, and ironically went to Utah. But what I loved about Smith is that meanness, that nastiness. You're not gonna out physical me just because I'm shorter. Again, he doesn't weigh near as much, I think, as Steve Smith. So body like full put together, but that just nastiness kind of made me think of him. I'm with you. I think this is a hell of a get for Texas.
He was a second-team All Pac-12 punt returner in 2022. And then as he became the most important receiving piece in that Oregon State offense a year ago, led them in receptions, led them in yards, was second in touchdowns. I think they took some of the special teams responsibilities off of him. I think you'll probably see him replacing Xavier Worthy on punts. In fact, Jeff Banks made a point as soon as the announcement was made yesterday to say, speed, special teams, baby. And he's an excited coach. Add him with Matthew Golden, who is another. He was second team All Big 12 this year in kickoff returns. So you probably have your kickoff returns and your punt returns settled. But as we've tried to figure out, because in our heads, we were thinking to ourselves, well, Golden is probably one outside receiver, and Jonte Cook is another. And Isaiah Bond played 60% of the snaps for Alabama this year in the slot. So of those 3, he's better set for the slot. I think we kind of worked it into our heads that those 3 guys will be the starters, so they don't really need Silas Balden. Then it occurred to me yesterday, well, he might actually be a better player. Like maybe he's not a better NFL prospect yet, but and maybe I don't know. I just know this. He's really, really good. And I'm not so sure that he's taken a back seat to anybody. He has 1 season of eligibility left. When he gets on campus, there's a real junkyard dog inside of that guy that makes me think, I don't know how the wide receiver rotation is going to completely work out, but he didn't come here to just be some dude that gets the ball a couple of times a game. They had to have told him, we play the best players. We think you're great. There's a very real chance that you could be the best receiver that we have. So like you come in here and work your butt off, and like there's potentially no you sitting behind anybody. He is an outside guy more than anything else. Alex pointed out last night, the Cockamamie Pro Football Focus has him listed as his outside. He was an outside receiver on 80% of his snaps last year. And if you go back and you watch the Utah game film that's on YouTube, you can just go to YouTube and find that video.
He's out there a lot.
It's his home.
Yeah.
And he does a little bit of everything from outside. He'll cross over the middle. He's a deep guy, but he is almost exclusively a guy that lines up on the perimeter. And so I've had some people say, well, what does this mean for Ryan Niblett? What does this mean for DeAndre Moore? I don't think anything. Those guys are slot receivers right now. And we know that Isaiah Bond spent a lot of time there, so he's probably their competition. I think this guy is competition for Matthew Golden. I think he's competition for Ryan Wingo. And I think what the Texas coaching staff is saying is sink or swim. fly or fall to the ground.
Yeah.
But they're looking for guys that they can absolutely count on in 2024. There will be no, we will live or die based on whether or not our wide receiver unit can grow up. If these guys can grow up, we talked about it. It's wealthy people problems. Oh, I got to play Ryan Wingo, the 5-star badass, over the transfer that I bought in. Like, great problems to have. But what won't be a problem is that they go down at any point next season because they're just too inexperienced at wide receiver.
Yeah, and by the way, we mentioned this yesterday, Catch, but just to reiterate, not only will Texas have a Bond, a Bolden, and a Golden, they're the same position.
Yes.
So for Craig Way and for any TV announcer out there, you better get ready because there's going to be a lot of that going on if those guys are in the same set. But Catch, the team that I'm thinking of as they're building this is that 2020 group that Sark had. If everybody can remember when it was Ruggs, Waddle, and then when Mechie came along, you watch that team play and you're like, well, wait a minute. Who in the world are you supposed to cover? How do you double them? How do you deal with them? How can you aggressively defend one guy and not leave yourself open on another guy? They just acquired the leading receiver for Alabama and the leading receiver for Oregon State, who we know chunked the ball around this year with Uiagalelei. They got both of those guys, plus a guy from Houston that was really productive as well. So
who may have ended up kind of the same guy had he not been banged up and missed some games and been, injured throughout the season. So
it's an incredible acquisition of talent, not to mention what you and I think Jonte Cook can become as he develops. I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. And now maybe Sark needs to realize, as we'll see how it plays out, but does Sark need to think about more at times? Is it more of a rotation sometimes, or like you're saying, is this just, look, fellas, we're going to go with the 3 or maybe 4 or maybe 5 at a time that are our best guys, and you just got to fight for your reps.
We know it's a meritocracy. It's just a matter of how deep the meritocracy runs. Last year it was 3 guys. There was never any doubt like that the 3 guys that were on the field were the best 3, although we could have argued at times where Jordan Whittington wasn't producing, and we wondered, is there a way that Jonte Cook, they can move some pieces around so that maybe Jonte Cook's in their top 3? But we all agreed that was like the top 4, and the top 3 was the top 3, and everybody would ask about Isaiah Nayor, and you just say, well, he's not one of the top 4. I think there'll be more than 3 deep this year. I think the Silas Balden addition tells us that. We know they brought in 3 transfers. We know they have Jonte Cook. We know they have Ryan Wingo, among others. They will play more than 3, I think. Will it be 4? Will it be 5? I don't know. Like, it will be one of the great real unknowns going into the season is how all of these guys are deployed, who is getting what amount of reps. Like, it's a real – 2 weeks ago, the question was, do they have enough experience? And now it's, do they have enough footballs? And those are real first world problems in college athletics. And if you're Texas, you're glad to be having them right now. The other big addition yesterday, big in the sense that he's like a first off the bus looking guy.
Oh, he looks great, doesn't he?
My uniform that you think to yourself, if there's a God and he created football players, he wants them to look like Kendrick Blackshire.
Yep.
Can he play? That is one of the real question marks that still kind of centers around him. They add the Alabama linebacker through the portal. He picks Texas over Ole Miss. Suddenly your 4 veteran pieces in the linebacker unit are Anthony Hill, who we just know, like one way or the other, he's somewhere. He's the best linebacker.
Yeah.
We know that David Benda is back. Quite frankly, him and Blackshire are very similar. David Benda looks good in a uniform too. Like they kind of same profile, same kind of body build. We can maybe argue who the better athlete is, although Alabama fans would tell you like Blackshire's got good downhill. He's athletic. Maybe he's just not athletic in a way that allows him to be great in pass coverage. And it's like the Spider-Man meme all of a sudden because if you say that out loud, David Benda might go, hey, that's me too. I'm athletic, but like you don't necessarily want me covering the slot. And then you've got Maurice Blackwell, who is kind of the passing downs guy right now, where one of those guys can come off and he can come on. It does give you depth. I don't know if he's a starter. I mean, who's he starting over? It's not going to be Anthony Hill. He doesn't really profile like a Mike linebacker at Texas, because the Mike linebacker at Texas is asked. I mean, just think about the way they use Jalen Ford. He had to do everything. Mm-hmm. He's in pass coverage. He's blitzing. He's defending the run. They use him in every capacity needed. I don't think that's who Benda is. I don't think that is who Blackshire is, and it's really not ideal for Maurice Blackwell. Yeah. I'm now too many damn names, Chad.
Blackshire, Blackwell, Golden, Bolden. Come on.
That's what I'm saying. But it does, I think, give Texas a little bit of depth, because if you look behind those guys, it's a little bit like the wide receiver position. It's just a bunch of names of highly recruited guys that haven't proven themselves yet. I think in a lot of ways, taking Blackshire is kind of a message that they're sending with Bolden just on the offensive side of the ball, which is we're not going to lose games because we run out of experienced players. So if you're a guy that doesn't have a lot of experience, you can get on the field, but they're not going to watch you grow up. You're going to have to grow up in the offseason and be ready to play on the field when the games start. Otherwise, they're going to play with the experienced guys. I don't think it closes pathways for young guys, but it tells them in very stark terms that if you don't raise your level of play, the season will go on without you.
Yeah, no doubt. Real quick, somebody threw this name into the chat. I don't know if you said it just then, but LaFau, another guy.
I mean, he is a guy that could come in and replace Jalen Ford, Chad.
Right.
The problem is he's completely unproven.
Yeah.
And Jalen Ford wasn't Jalen Ford that we know of. And like Jalen Ford had a second year where you didn't even know if he was going to be any good. Like it was like, oh, he's okay. That's pretty normal actually for second year players. It's when you're playing when you're trying to win championships, it's hard a lot of times to wait on guys. And if you're a 7-5 team or an 8-4 team, or maybe a 9-3 team, but you're coming off of like one of those teams, right? Like it's a lot easier to put a freshman on the field and say, we'll be better at the end of the season because we're letting this guy grow up on the field right now. When you're Texas or you're Alabama or you're Georgia or you're Ohio State, Michigan, you're one of these teams, especially moving forward, where it's like, if we don't make the playoffs, it's a completely wasted season. You know, you might not have said that completely about Ohio State this year. Like maybe you wouldn't quite say that, but they missed the playoffs. It was a wasted year. But now that they're taking 12, got to get in the playoffs every year. And you really can't afford to say, hey, we're gonna concede that we won't be at our best in September and October because we're going to play the young guys, and then we'll be one of those teams at the end of the year that nobody wants to play. You just can't beat Texas and do that. And I think Steve Sarkisian is letting us know right now, like in no uncertain terms, that he absolutely understands that. Tom G jumping into the super chat, Chad says, Catch started a fire on OB, so want your take. Oh God, is there a hot, is Orange Blood's burning and I don't know this?
Tom G went crazy.
My take was that this is the year for the on-the-field results for DB coaches. They're the weak link, in my opinion. Agree. Look, let's just take it one part at a time. Yeah, I agree with you that this is the year for on-field results for the DB coaches. And we're going to play Portal Combat in a second. We'll talk about Jabar Muhammad. And it will continue on to the point, Tom, that we'll be making together, which is the secondary play wasn't good enough last year. They are improving the talent for which that position on the field has to work with. And yeah, if they don't start playing at a much higher level, then yes, I think the DB coaches, I think we could see change there. I think that is entirely possible. They are the weak link, in my opinion. So you're saying the DB coaches are the weak link of the program, of the coaching staff?
I'm assuming that's a coaching staff comment.
Okay, well, let's do this, Chad. Let's take the DB coaches out of it. It's an unfair conversation to have, but is there anybody that we would – because the thing is, we would say Kyle Flood, one of the – let's do it like this. Running backs coach Tashard Choice, we think he's one of the best in the country, right?
I would say so, yeah.
Chris Jackson. Does he have enough of a reputation yet that we can put him up there with Kyle Flood and Tashard Choice and
maybe not enough of a sample size yet, but certainly not any kind of liability at this point.
Wouldn't say that about Jeff Banks. I mean, his special teams, the tight end position has been good.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some nitpicks about some of the young guys in the program, but recruiting the tight end position is much easier said than done. There is no defensive line coach.
Yep.
Johnny Nansen is now your linebackers coach, and he's really good.
I was just saying he's walking into a weak link, in my opinion. But
yes.
Is he a weak link? That's a different question, but there's a lot on him right away.
And then, so look, if in the context of if we're comparing coaches, maybe you could get away with saying that. It's harsh, but the rest of the staff is elite of the elite. Although I would say, I don't know that we know what to make of AJ Millie, truly. When he's the quarter, he's technically listed. Texas technically has, Chad, Kyle Flood is the offensive coordinator.
Ah, I see.
If you go to his bio, it does not say co-offensive coordinator. It says offensive coordinator and offensive line.
Interesting. One second, Catch. I got a call from Joe Wickline. One second. Let me just double check. What is it? Oh, okay. Just the title. Okay.
So AJ Millie is the co-offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. But we know it's Steve Sarkisian's offense. So, and he's the guy calling the plays. We don't talk about Kyle Flood's first 15 plays on a play sheet. We talk about Sarkisian's. So I don't know how to even talk about AJ Millie. But Quinn Ewers made progress this year. To the victor go the spoils, right? Like his position had a quality year, and he's got Arch Manning now to work with. So Tom, yeah, sure. I tell you what, I would say, Tom, I don't disagree with you. How about that?
Tom, there you go. Tom, thank you for the super chat. A lot of stuff going on today. Oh, there it is again. I thought I got rid of it.
I think we both got
at
the same time.
There you go. We both got rid of it. Catch, before we jump into portal discussion, I just want to let you know what's been going on in the world of chat and otherwise. Before we got even started today, apparently Kyle Henderson's show over on Bama Football on YouTube was going a little crazy, and Aggies were jumping in for some reason, and one of our chatters decided to jump in there and yell at them a little bit. And then as our show gets started, a Bama fan jumped in and chatted this, followed by this.
Wow.
Followed by this.
Wow.
So, just so you understand what's going on in Bama land today, I think that's probably a good setup if we want to fire up the intro here, because we got a super chat lined up that involves portal. Why don't we get a little portal combat going on, because they're freaking out in T-Town.
Round one, fight! Get over here! Finish him!
And the name that really did it was Caleb Downs. There may be other names that do it, Catch, but with all due respect to Kendrick Blackshire, that's not a name that made a Bama fan lose their mind. But Caleb Downs was. Caleb Downs, stud safety, I think 10 tackles against Texas in Tuscaloosa. He led them in tackles, Catch, as a freshman. And the Bama people don't believe that has ever happened ever for a freshman. And now he's announced he's going into the portal. Smart money. Probably Georgia's going to be involved in this discussion and some others. But Catch, this one has got Bama fans reeling because it is mass exodus now headed to the portal since they're in their 30-day window.
Blake, do you have that tweet that I sent you?
Yeah, I think we got it.
Put that up there. This is going to be interesting for a couple of different reasons. So Dan Wetzel at almost 10 a.m. this morning tweeted, since the Rose Bowl, Alabama has seen Nick Saban retire. 21 players enter the portal, including Isaiah Bond, Caleb Downs, 6 recruits from both the class of 24 and 2025. That is combined decommits. I think they lost a 5-star in the last hour.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Catch, and since this tweet, I think I read a story today that put that 21 number up to 24.
Well, I know Caden Proctor's in the portal. They just lost their future first-round left tackle.
And another and just like Downs, Catch, that's the kind of guy you never used to lose in portal or otherwise. A freshman badass that you think is around for 2 more years, even if he's a stud, and they may be about to lose both of them. That's rough.
I mean, it looks like they have lost both of them.
So Proctor's definitely going in. He's in.
Yes.
Okay. That was their starting left tackle this year, or right? Because Latham was out on the right side. So it wasn't Proctor was left tackle.
Started from day one.
Right.
And
wow.
It is, he was a freshman All-American, freshman All-SEC. He wasn't what you would describe as a great player yet, but he literally started all 13 games at left tackle as a true freshman. From Des Moines, Iowa. He picked Alabama over Iowa.
Yeah.
So would he go home to Iowa? There are things that remain to be seen. Would he just go back to the Midwest in general? There are very few teams that would say today, hey, did you hear that Caden Proctor's in the portal? Yeah, we're good. We don't need any first-round left tackles.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's sort of like when Walter Nolan hit the portal, right? The list of teams that will care about that is long. So, as soon as you hear about that one, you are checking your depth chart fast.
I think Saban did not mean to screw Alabama. This wasn't a deceitful decision. But we're learning things about the portal in real time this is the first year we've ever had these portal rules in place where there's a window and a calendar and, it's first time. And what we've learned through the Nick Saban experience going to Caleb DeBoer, which, by the way, I don't know how much of this is his fault. I don't know how much to judge him for what's happening. But if you suffer a coaching change in January after the portal closes, you're potentially royally screwed. And Alabama, you and I talked about this on the phone earlier today. When A&M announces that they were going to change coaches and the window opened in early December, A&M, I got Alabama on the brain. A&M lost a ton of guys, but they had a full month with a new coaching staff. We can debate the quality of all of the guys that they're bringing in, but they got guys. A&M has 20.
I read 20 today back. Yeah, okay. 20 that they've acquired.
Yes.
It was 12 in a weekend. Remember that? It was
yes, they were literally there was a sign that designates a commitment. There are like 12 of them out in a row.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, because here, think about the other part of their timeline, Catch. If you want to think about when are you getting rid of your coach, A&M officially announced it in November. And so there was a little bit of their portal that started, just theirs, not the portal. Then the portal opened up. So it gave a chance for their guys to freak out and go to the portal. And then A&M got that next window of opportunity. And now there's extra time because of Saban and all that. So yeah, they end up with an amount of time that Bama won't have right now.
If you're a school that changes coaches, you got to leave yourself time to be able to portal respond. That's a new phrase. Portal response.
Portal response. Respond.
Because you're going to get departures. There's just going to be no way to avoid that in 2024. You're going to get some guys that leave. You may even get, you look at Alabama. If this can happen to Alabama, it can happen to anybody. They've lost 22, 23, 24 guys this month. That's an entire recruiting class.
Right. And the number, by the way, the immediate exit, I think for A&M was 14 or 17, something like that. It was a big number to start.
But they eventually replaced, in terms of numbers, all of those guys. Alabama's probably going to be in a position where, because they're Alabama, I bet they kick some ass in the spring.
Right. Well, that's the key window here. That what that means is April 15th to April 30th just got way more interesting. Not that it wasn't going to be, Catch, but it's extremely interesting. I think where everybody schedules their spring game is going to be a note to look at, but then that timing is big. Bama fans don't want to breathe and be patient, but that's what I'd tell them to do, because, Catch, there are going to be a ton of guys coming out of spring practice feeling like, man, I don't like my place on this roster, and I know Bama might need help. I'm going to the portal.
Or if Bama gets their NIL stuff together, maybe, I always say if it was me, I would live in some, whatever shade of gray you want to call it, that's where I'd be in it. And I would, I'd let a high school coach know, hey, if you talk to Bobby anytime in the next couple of months, or his parents, let him know that if he ever decides that he wants to enter the portal, remember, it's the thing that Jeff Traylor was talking about.
Yeah.
Where he was like, you don't think these high school coaches tell me that you've called them up and tried to express to them, like, hey, let little Bobby know we've got a spot open. Like, that's going to happen. How aggressive will Alabama be on that? How aggressive will they be talking to other teams' players during the spring? It's really fascinating, but it doesn't change. The pool will be limited no matter what.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It is going to be a little more limited. And now, but see, here's the thing. The domino effect at least creates opportunity where Bama can replenish from the dominoes.
But it's the only way they can replenish it. It means they've got to be seriously on point in the spring, because the larger window, and the one that we know from experience is the one that has the most amount of traffic, is closed on them. And I was looking at, and I tell you what I will do when we do our recruiting hour later on today, I'll pull up some of the lists. I'll send them to Blake so that we can use for graphics, but it'll give you an idea of like how spread thin the talent is at this point. That if you look at the top guys in the portal, if you look at updated portal rankings, the only guys that are available are the guys that just left. All these guys have made their decisions. There are very few Silas Boldens and Kendrick. And look, Kendrick Blackshire is a guy that just entered the portal because his coach left or retired. But Silas Balden was a guy that goes into the portal and was just a little bit later making a decision. But I think that I think Alabama's screwed. I think Alabama's in a position. I mean, that could be a 7-5 or 8-4 type of team next year, that you don't just take that even Alabama can't afford to lose 20 plus guys.
Yeah.
Among them, a number of critical starters on top of guys going to the NFL, right? Like,
Right.
there's
'Cause
also the guys that will just be leaving to go off to the NFL. Combined with all of this, it's a massive piece of roster turnover. And oh, by the way, this also doesn't include the 2024 and 2025 commitments that they've lost, aka a guy like Ryan Williams, who could have been the guy that replaced the Isaiah Bond departure, but he's gone too. Like Alabama has really taken it on the chin. And I think when we talk about preseason SEC teams next year, the default coming out of this season, right as the season ends, is Georgia, Texas, Alabama. And probably Georgia won and the other two schools in whatever order you wanted to put them in. I think it's more than fair now to say that the top three in the SEC on paper going into next year is Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss. That I don't know where Alabama is ultimately going to fall, but I don't know that I can certainly talk about them the way we always talk about Alabama. That is a football program that has taken some missiles at the defense center during this early part of the offseason, and the sky fell.
Sky fell. What's up, Kyle?
I can't be emphatic about what they are because they still
Pets' heads are falling off.
I love that on any given day, I'm in Kyle's chat and do you know that Kyle, they had 100,000 subscribers the other day?
I saw you said that. Yeah, I saw
and
that.
I didn't realize because I get their stuff populates my screen all the time. And I constantly find myself watching, but I realized that I hadn't subscribed yet. I was subscriber 100,000.
Were you really?
I refused to hit subscribe until they were at 99,999.
Look at you. Well done. Good job, Catch.
Thank you. Give me that volleyball clap.
You know what you're doing, Catch? You're supporting a future SEC brother because it just means more. Well done. Well done.
Supporting Kyle. I know that.
Supporting Kyle.
But I don't know how to speak. No, I was not. I was 100,000.
We're gonna have a debate now.
Take that away from me, Kyle.
We are going to have a debate. We're going to have a debate. Actually, I think, double check that, Kyle. I think the 100,000 subscriber was Caleb Downs. Just double check me on that.
Or
I think it was Blackshire. Kirby was 100,000. Well done. Well done. That's well played. Well played, sir. Well played. By the way, Catch, your name for today, your idea for the thumbnail name for today's show worked for our man Oscar. He says $4.99 super chat. Just hopped in after class. I gotta know, is Alabama fucked? What? What's going on? What's the deal? That was Catch's idea.
It worked, Chad.
It did. It worked. It worked. It worked. It
and
worked.
Yes, the question is, how effed are they? Yes. They are effed. You don't lose your left tackle, your best receiver, your best defensive player, 20 other guys, plus the guys that have gone pro, and come away thinking we're not effed.
Yeah,
it's a matter of how effed they are. And I wonder, look, if I went into a Texas offseason and I said, Texas, you're fucked. And you were like, well, how fucked are we, Catch? And I was like, you're 9-3 fucked. Like, that's not the worst thing in the world. Hey, Texas has been 9-3. They know what that feels like. If you tell and you know what? There's a world out there where 9-3 could sneak you into the playoffs.
Yeah, we don't know for sure, but it could.
If Texas in 2024 beats Michigan, Georgia, and Oklahoma, but somehow they lose 3 other games, there could still be a resume discussion at that point where you're like 9-3. It's going to be close, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Texas has done that before. Alabama hasn't had an 8-4, 9-3 season in a long time.
He just
They've
went
been number one in the country from 2008 every single year through 2022. Every single year, they were at number one at least at some point during that season from 2008 every single year to 2022. This most recent year was the only time it hadn't happened for Alabama since Nick Saban's first season.
right.
93 will feel like pets' heads are falling off.
Right. Well, because
it just will.
Again, he was there 17 years. The first year was the 7-5. Every other year he won 10. Just think about it that way. It's 16 straight years of 10 wins or more. So 9-3, when you say to a Bama fan, what do you like? If you met a 10-year-old Bama fan today, he's 10, she's 11. Hey, what do you do when Bama wins 9 games in a regular season? They go, I don't know. I have no idea, because they've literally never lived through it. So they are about to have to live through something possibly that they haven't. But yeah, it's catch. They were gonna be fucked a little if it was just Saban.
Yeah.
If it was just
Oh,
Saban.
that's the other part of this.
And if everybody stayed, every single person we're talking about could have stayed. Downs and Proctor and Milroe and all of them. Everybody could have stayed. Hell, the guys that are going pro could have decided to stay, the ones with eligibility. And they'd have still been a little fucked because they're losing Nick Saban. But now you're adding.
Good.
What's that?
He's good, right?
He's really good. He's really good. And that's why this particular offseason domino discussion, we are not going to have this one again. Maybe in our lives.
Yeah.
We are not going to have it again. So now it's all about how do they reset for this year. Let me give you a quick little picture, Catch, because I know a lot of people are thinking about the game. By the time we get to October 19th, when Texas will host Georgia, the thought might be, hey, is this the battle for supremacy in the SEC, for really taking ownership of the SEC? By that day, Catch, Texas will have played Oklahoma, and Georgia will have gone to Alabama in September. So we'll really get a sense for where those two are. Obviously, we'll be paying attention to that Ole Miss schedule as well. But without looking at it, I don't think they have anything crazy towards the front. Theirs is a little deeper into the schedule. So when that game happens in Austin, we'll know a lot about the other, some other teams around them, because Bama's going to go to Oklahoma. But Catch, by the time we get to November 23rd, is that game going to really matter? Or is that just going to be another game?
It's a great point. I also wonder, I have some real doubt that Jim Harbaugh takes an NFL job.
Really?
He's got to be watching what's happening at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He has to know that can be us.
You think he can talk Michigan into what he wants?
Michigan will give him what he wants. That's not the issue.
Okay.
I think he wants to go to the NFL. We talked about this yesterday. He's got an NFL agent. Like, there's a lot of connecting dots. Should he leave, he has to know that Michigan could have this happen to them, that 20 guys could go into the portal. Now, look, maybe they hire from within, that the interim guy from last year, Sharon Moore, maybe they elevate him. But are you really getting them? If you're Michigan, do you hire from within and go with complete inexperience because you're afraid of the portal? Or do you go get the single best coach that Michigan football can hire? Be fascinating to watch how that happens. Because one of the points to me that comes out of this Alabama thing is, if you are going, unless they change the rules, which, look, they're making this up as they go. It's very possible that Alabama can raise their hand and say, did you just see what happened to us? That's not fair, which I think is funny.
Hey, on one hand, yes, but on the other hand, Catch, we put this system together where if you can acquire that much stuff in your closet, and you are giving every badass jacket and pair of shoes the opportunity to go, you know what? I want to go to another closet. I want to be in somebody else's closet. I'm not saying Jay-Z's closet's not badass. I just want to see what another closet's like. If you're allowing for that, then people are going to come to the closet that's got the stuff.
Look, future closets are going to decide that they have to make their closet decisions with regards to whose house. Right, you got to get out of the closet thing.
Yeah.
You can't fire a coach in December or late. Think about what Texas did when they got rid of Tom Herman and Steve Sarkisian. Now, that was essentially a 24-hour flip-flop.
Right.
But that still could have been a situation where in 2024, you lose 20 guys.
And
if
what was the timing on that again? When did that happen?
January 2nd?
Yeah. Okay. I knew it was right around New Year's. So that's not going to be perfect timing anymore.
No, because you'd only have 2 days. I mean, you just wouldn't. The portal would close and too many decisions would be made. And then your team is in a position where, hey, the going rate these days is somewhere between 10 and 20 leave, right? We can kind of all set our watch to that to a certain extent. We're watching it happen at Washington right now. We'll see it with Arizona. We've seen it with Alabama. You're going to see like 10 or 20 guys leave. You're not going to have time to have those guys replenished in your roster. They're going to have to change the rules. The issue is they didn't like it when the window stayed open longer because they felt like the players had too much control. But now, in limiting the players, what you've really done is really limit the schools who are having changes made when the calendar's been shut.
So the big question then, but the question can also become, is this really something we're going to be able to learn from and use moving forward, or is this just the one that involved Saban?
No, because I still think if the Washington, look, let's say Kalen DeBoer took a job with the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay.
We'd watch Washington's roster be depleted.
It's true.
And all they would have is, well, who are we hiring and what's on that guy's roster? Like, it just becomes, one sliding door after another. But the possibilities, when I talk about Texas potentially raiding Arizona, what does that rating means? Maybe you take a player or two. There's
right.
Just
that's a different kind, right. Different kind of closet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that unless the rules change, you better believe next year we'll be watching coaching changes made. And if we see somebody make a coaching change late, we're going to be like, they took that risk on their own. You almost have to, I was suggesting that you could do it in the summer like Bob Stoops did, right? Where it's really late to have a coaching change. But even then, your roster opens up and it becomes its own 30-day, everything's on the table window. There's really no way to get away from the fact there's no perfect date to sneakily change a coach or fire a coach to protect yourself. That this new rule of when a coach departs, that entire roster has 30 days to do anything that they want to do. Then it's just a matter of like getting your academics in order so that you could transfer. So maybe, I don't know. It's complicated. And all I know is this. If you have a coaching change in January, the title of today's episode may be you.
Yeah, it may be. And April 15th through April 30th is all, it may be all you got. It may be the biggest thing in your world, and you're going to have to hope that it looks really good. Super chat from Tom G, $10. This is interesting, Catch. This is we'll get to that other one too. These portal rules will be suicide for most schools. Bama would survive this, but it needs to be fixed. Tom G, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know exactly how you fix it, because this is the idea of, well, coaches can't just go wherever they want and trap the kids. Like Nick Saban could have trapped those guys at Bama by waiting till a certain day to have the meeting. We talked about this. He did it on the first day of classes. In the old way, Catch, once they go to class, they're in.
Yep.
They're locked. And a guy like Caleb Downs doesn't have an option. And a guy like Proctor doesn't really have an option. He's a sophomore coming back, and he's going to have to talk to Kalen DeBoer. And if he wants to transfer, he's going to have to sit out a year. Like, that's the way it used to be. So everybody wanted those players to have power. This is kind of what it looks like. So are we going to learn that because of the 30-day window is the perfect time to fire a coach like a little earlier than what A&M did with Jimbo? Is it November 2nd?
I don't know, but the coaches were bitching about this during the bowl season.
They were, but if the perfect time
can be done, because you got to give these kids time to make their transfers and get into their new schools. There's no way to do all of that without it crossing into the territory that we saw it cross into. You wait later than January, and Tom's right. It's suicide.
I really think, I mean, maybe the answer ultimately is there's one big portal, and that portal exists in the spring and summer. That might be the ultimate answer here.
But then you can't have guys transfer midterm. Like, you're asking to get – the thing is, the NCAA is terrified of being sued.
Yep.
Everything they're doing is to try to make sure they don't get sued. So I don't know that there's ever going to be an answer that makes everybody happy. The smart thing may be you just got to give the players power.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's going to be it. We got another good super chat here. By the way, thanks to over 620 in that Specs chat. Real quick, Catch, I got an idea for a Texas fan that's got an Alabama fan as a friend. They need a drink. Take them to Hayes City Store for a stiff drink and a good meal. You'll enjoy it. They'll enjoy it. Everybody will have a good time. Check out some of these daily specials on drinks. Monday through Friday, half-price bottles of wine, $3 pints domestic, $4 pints craft beers, $4 off Mexican martinis. That's what the Bama fan will drink just before you even get your appetizer. And then everything may calm down. There's your QR code. They're out there on FM 150 in Driftwood. Obviously, double check the weather that we got going on right now because it's so cold. But remember, when it's cold out there, they do have the flaps in the ice house they can pull down, and they got the heaters out there. So just double check it. Always a good time to take friends and family out there to Hayes City Store. We are always trying to plan how to get back out to Hayes City Store, and you should be too. So take your Bama friends out to Hayes City Store. Bourbon milkshake, good way to do it. Get them the bourbon milkshake for dessert, and they'll be just fine. But it is a wild world. And Catch, this next super chat, I think, speaks to a question I've had. I see chatters and Texas fans wondering this. So back to Texas acquiring all the receiver talent. Let's think about that room as we read this one. $10. If we hit the portal every year for position shortages, will this make recruits iffy about coming in the future, knowing they may just get replaced by a portal player? How do you sell it to the recruits? I feel like there's a lot of that discussion around Texas right now, Catch, even with all this good news. How do you respond?
I think you lean on your meritocracy principles, right? And so the question is, you talk to a guy and you say, what he wants to hear is that the best players play. So, Coach, when I get there, how do I know that some other kid you've recruited that's got more, how do you tell a 4-star to come in when a 5-star is at his position? Like, how do I know you're not just going to play that guy because he's a 5-star? And like, what chance do I have to get on the field? And the coach says, hey, once you get here, you don't have any stars. You're just a football player. And we play the best guys. That is what works. That is what guys want to hear. That's what you will tell them. Now, there will be some guys that say that potentially pause at that. And then there will be other guys that say, well, I'm the best, so I'm not afraid of competition, so I'm not really worried about that. But I think, Blake, it's a fair question. I think that if you're Sarkisian, though, and look, we're going to talk about Jabar Muhammad in just a second. I think he's a good example of this. He wouldn't turn down what he's just brought in if it comes down to I might lose a few guys in the future while I figure out what the hell the right thing is to say to them about this, or I can just give everybody back and it can be the way that it was, and I can just play who I have on my roster. He'll live with this problem,
right?
If it means it's solving the problem in the here and now. And I can't stress it enough. Steve Sarkisian is telling us with his actions in the portal right now, you know what I care about more than anything else on the planet? 2024. Period. I got a season, my first in the SEC. I'm not worried about 2025. I'm not worried about 2026. I'm not worried about 2027. I'm worried about 2024. And when I get to, and if I cost myself a player or two or a recruit or two in 2024 because I focus too much on 2024, then you know what I'll do in 2025? I will just go out and do what I did in 2024. And for every guy I lose because they were worried about what's going to happen to me, well, I won't take guys that are worried about what will happen to them. I'll just go take 10 more guys in the portal, and all of those guys will project as major contributors. And you know what I'll do about 2026? I'll worry about that when 2025 is over.
And Blake, the other thing I would mention in thinking through that, if I am the badass recruit, it does kind of become the football version of how do you get a job without experience and how do you get experience without a job? So that 5-star has to really focus in on wherever you're going to go. Now, if you want to transfer to a lower level school in your mind, like remember that first school that offered you that school, you want to go there? You could probably get more reps there, but you ended up coming here. You ratcheted it up in your head and said, I can go compete at that level. You got to weigh all those things out, but I get it. I do get how that would be tough because I'm that badass 5-star catch. And I think, ooh, here come my reps. Here come my reps. And all of a sudden you look and it's like, wait, portal guys are coming in. Wait, that guy led Alabama in receiving. Wait, that guy led Oregon State in receiving. Yeah, I understand how that would be a little tough, but if you want the competition, you're damn sure going to get it.
And you know what it does do? It does a thing that originally people didn't think would happen. This does strengthen the teams below the Texases and the Georgias that, you know, they're getting trickle down that they otherwise never would have. When we saw TCU a year ago get Tommy Brockermeyer and JoJo Earl, and these are cream of the crop recruits that sprinkle off the trees. And, you know, it's like looking at acorns on the ground versus acorns in the tree. Some squirrels might not ever be able to get the squirrels at the top of the tree. I don't know. Maybe they've got arthritis. But like the squirrels with arthritis that can't climb them trees, they just got to make sure they pick up the ones off the ground. The ones on the ground are the same as the ones in the tree. They just fell to the ground. There's a way for every team at every level to manage all of this. It's going to take some time to figure out what the sweet spot is. Yeah. And one of the things that I've been saying for multiple years now, and people that are watching this show that are on Orange Bloods, they know they didn't like it when I first said it. They thought that I was full of shit, to be completely honest.
Never.
I've wondered aloud for years now, if you're Texas, why would you ever take a kid in recruiting that you know is going to take 2 or 3 years to develop? Because you're not going to be that patient. And we know that kids in 2024, they're not patient. It's an anomaly. When we see someone who's like, well, I just hung around for 4 years. I just kept believing that it would happen for me. In 2024, that guy doesn't wait, and the schools don't wait. When they're looking for numbers, they tell a guy, you probably will play more if you go someplace else. So for a school like Texas, I do think, Blake, they've got to recalibrate a little bit. What are we doing in recruiting? And even though we have all of the belief in the world that we're making the right evaluations, if it's going to take a guy 2 or 3 years to get to where we think the evaluation is, how likely is it that in 3 to 4 years from now, that guy has waited and we've been patient? Because I can look at the Texas roster right now. I can look at guys that just signed in this class, and I can point out the guys that are going to need 2 or 3 years before they're really ready to play at this level. And I guarantee you, we could look at that list today, put it on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, bury it in the ground. In 3 years from now, we can go get that envelope out of the ground, open it up, take the piece of paper out. All of the names that are on the list, almost all of them will have left through the portal. And what it means is you've kind of just wasted your goddamn time.
And to an extent, maybe the kids' time too.
The kids will have definitely wasted their time to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So, because I've had some people say, well, Catch, nobody can just recruit national top 100 guys all the time. They're right. They're not wrong. But the example of what we're looking at right now is how schools are able to protect themselves against having to wait on guys. They can take 20. Sark will go back and people will ask him, Chad, in August, back in December, you talked about your culture and how you didn't want to take too many guys in the portal because you didn't want to hurt your culture. They'll say, but you brought in 10 portal guys this year. How's that working? And he'll go, oh, well, we only took guys that we thought would help our culture. Like, you'll constantly navigate around this thing, but it is a moving, never still target. We're over the 1 o'clock hour. We're creeping up on buy or sell. Real quick, Jabar Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
He's on his way to Texas today.
Okay.
A report on 3. Rivals had a report yesterday where he broke down his top 3 schools. What's interesting is Oregon just lost their DB coach, which potentially throws the recruitment for Oregon on Jabar Muhammad up in the air. They're essentially having the problem that Texas is having with the defensive tackle coach. These guys don't necessarily want to commit and just not know where in the hell or who in the hell they're going to play for.
Right.
He has not yet set up an Oregon official visit.
Okay.
I've been thinking that Oregon was going to get the first official visit because the sense a few days ago was that Oregon was the leader. Now he's on his way to Texas. He's scheduled to visit Alabama. No Oregon visit yet on the schedule.
Okay.
I have not yet heard my source that told me on Sunday that they were more pessimistic than optimistic with regards to Muhammad. It's kind of gone quiet on me. Hold on. Let me just check. Who knows? You never know. Sometimes it's happened before where in the middle of an hour. Nope. Hadn't gotten back to me. So I haven't heard back in a couple of days from the person that I talked to with regards to Muhammad, but that he's making this visit makes me think, sometimes I do feel like I'm used. Not in a bad way, right? But sometimes I think it helps to get the word out. Like I had a source mention on Sunday that there were 3 or 4 guys that Texas really wanted through the portal that they weren't able to get because of academic admissions and things like that. But we heard this about Makuba, and what happened? They got Makuba in.
Uh-huh.
We heard this about Jamari Caldwell. The next thing we know, it looks like they could have got him in if they wanted to, that whatever the issues were, they figured out. There's a part of me that is suspicious. Did my source tell me that about Jabar Muhammad while it was true, right? We think we're behind Oregon. Why are we behind Oregon? Well, potentially it's more complicated to figure out how it's all going to work out from an academic side of things. If you can get that into the universe, so that billionaire wealthy Texas football donation guy, what the hell do you mean we're not going to get the guy that we want to get because of some academic thing? That ain't going to fly. And then pressure gets put on because now all of a sudden people are like, what do you mean we're not going to be able to get this guy in? How can he be at Washington and he can't get into Texas? They're 40th in the country from like public universities, and we're 32. So how's that fly? I wonder if sometimes these things don't get put into the universe in hopes that it can help create the change needed. Because Jabar Muhammad is headed to Austin today. It leads me to believe that that they've worked through whatever needed to be worked through. And as of today, you want to look, I'll ask you the question. Would you rather be Texas, who gets the first visit, Alabama, who is scheduled to get the second visit, or Oregon, who has no visit scheduled whatsoever?
Yeah, I think I'd rather be Texas there, especially when watching what just happened with Silas Balden, because he had 3 visits, I believe, scheduled after Texas. But interesting that when he got to Austin, those 3 visits went away.
It is the thing in recruiting. You always want the last visit. In portal, you always want the first visit.
Yeah, because it is speed dating.
Yes. And I've been thinking for much of the last 3 or 4 days that Oregon would get the first shot. And then everybody would have to survive Oregon. As of today, because of the way we're watching this unfold, everybody watch Jabar Muhammad for the next couple of days. Because I think Texas now has taken the pole position there based on just how these things play out. And, you know, look, he could visit Alabama and say, look, I said I was going to visit. I'm definitely going to visit. But I think he'd like to have this thing wrapped up by Friday, Saturday, something like that. So Texas has him this week, today. Steve Sarkisian, you're up. But I think Jabar Muhammad is the next guy to watch in this portal window for the Longhorns. And if they can add Jabar Muhammad, it would be it would be adding an Isaiah Bond on the defensive side of the ball. A all Pac-12 player who you saw in person this season kind of kick your ass a little bit. And now you're just bringing him over to your team and you're solidifying a strength. It is, if they can pull it off, it would be a major acquisition for the Longhorns. And Steve Sarkisian continues to kind of have it figured out. It seems like I was told, God, I wish I still had the text, but I've been told multiple times there's a plan. Now, I don't know how all of this could be part of the plan, but part of the plan was certainly Sarkisian was ready to use the portal as a weapon in ways that he really hadn't before. And we're watching that in real time right now. What Texas is doing right now in the portal is completely different than what they've done in previous years. And I think Texas is going to be much stronger in the immediate season afterwards because of it.
All right, buy or sell is on the way, but we got a couple super chats from Blake, and we appreciate you, Blake. $4.99. Current structure of college football is basically like the entire NFL on 1-year contracts with no salary caps. It's madness.
Blake, I'll disagree with you there. Those are a couple of pretty massive qualifiers. It's basically like the NFL, but no salary cap and everybody's on 1-year contracts. Well, then it's not the NFL. No, it's not basically the NFL because the NFL does have salary caps and they're not all on 1-year contracts. I don't know what we compare this to. I don't know that there's an apple for an apple.
And also, Blake throws in another $4.99. Blake, thank you so much. 75% of the starters next year for Texas will be homegrown recruits. I don't count Quinn because he should have been in high school when he was at Columbus.
He just decided, I'm making one exception for my own rules. Blake, you're not wrong. Like the majority of the recruits, think about it. The running back position is all guys that have basically come through as recruits. The offensive line is exclusively recruits. The defense, much of that is – you're not wrong. He's not wrong, Blake. You're exactly right. And maybe that's one of the things that Sarkisian says. Well, look, we're always going to have some portal guys come in, but we're 3 out of 4 of our starters is homegrown. 1 out of 4 won't be. And he'll probably be able to say that's pretty standard all over the country.
Yeah.
Name the school now that, what are you going to go to Texas A&M? Because they just took 20. So, you know,
Right.
I think the protection that Texas has is that this is the new era of college football, and you either use it to your full advantage or you fall behind and you won't even want to come here as a prospect because we're not doing everything to maximize our ability to win.
Blake, thank you for those super chats. Thanks to everybody for their super chats. You know, they go right to the top of the list, just like this. $10 from Kevin. Because of UT being way over the 85 threshold this early, will there be any recruits told to leave now or after their first spring training and only semester at UT?
No, I don't think that Texas will approach any of the freshmen. You know, the thing is, we haven't seen a single player injured or retire for injury, get arrested, get homesick, have academic issues. There are all kinds of reasons besides the portal that cause guys to enter the portal or to leave programs. You know, think about, you know, Damon Demas. I mean, he was in the portal like a couple of times, and then he ends up at a junior college. And sometimes, you know, guys leave for different reasons and they come in and out. I don't think that they'll be going to guys that are there for their first spring or only semester, but I do think there will be guys after the spring, as there would have been already, that will evaluate where they are, where they think they are on a depth chart after the spring. And if they don't think there's a chance that they're going to play much this season, they'll leave.
Yeah.
So I think between natural attrition, which are all of the random things that can get a guy off of a roster, and guys wanting to leave, I think, and Texas, I wouldn't say is what they're 2 over. Texas is sitting at 87 right now. Now it's over, Kevin. So like the NCAA would tell us in August that that's way over, but in January it's not. And I think before it's all said and done, Texas will probably have 5 or 6 kids who end up leaving, which means you still got like 3 or 4 spots to play with at the current numbers.
All right, Catch. Blake jumps back in with another $4.99. Blake, thank you. You misunderstood. It's like if the NFL was on 1-year contracts. So I think that's what Blake was trying to create. I have a new idea, Catch. Let's misinterpret super chats to get other super chats to clarify those super chats. Then there'll be more super chats. I think that's a good idea. Wait a minute. The Cowboys aren't in the AFC. And then you
but I mean, even to say it's like if you're changing the entire, I mean, yes, if the NFL was all on 1-year contracts and there was no salary cap, then college football would be like that. But then everything about what we know about the NFL would be completely different. You know, it's like, it'd be like if it's like the whole Back to the Future thing, right? Where you have to create the exact same set of circumstances or you risk the entire family disappearing. If you did change the NFL like that, then who knows what the other aftershocks are. But I understand, Blake. Blake, don't send another $5 like on this. I get it. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. All right.
I'm just hard and ornery.
Catch just being a little ornery.
I'm
That's all it is. Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's get a little buy or sell, and then we will get out of here. Before we hit buy or sell, Catch, why don't we tell them about Mojo Insurance? 2024 has begun, and everybody's always looking to save money.
It's real simple. Scan that QR code or go to mojoinsurance.agency. Find out if you can save some cash. Tell you what, every university in the country probably should be trying to save some insurance or some money somewhere. Insurance could do it because they're going to be spending it elsewhere. They shop with over 50 A-rated carriers, Travelers, Farmers, Progressive, MetLife, Liberty Mutual, Nationwide. I'm not going to put anybody on blast today on accident like I did the other day when I mentioned somebody and it turned out somebody worked for that insurance company. It was in the chat. Small world. The bottom line is, if you could save money with your insurance, why not? Why not let somebody find out if you can save? And if you can, then ultimately the decision you have to make is, do I want some extra money in my pocket? Mojo Insurance will help you do that. All you got to do is fill out a form, scan that QR code, go to mojoinsurance.agency today.
All right, Catch. I know you're particularly proud of your number 4 today. I kind of like my number 5. Who goes first?
I'll go first today.
Hit it.
Buy or sell number 1. You're surprised that we haven't seen any house divided transfers so far.
Let's see. Surprised we haven't seen any.
Not one.
A direct one from the other. You're surprised we haven't seen. I will buy because probably as an Aggie, I've had this little voice in my head for a long time that said Evan Stewart would be a guy that would go to Austin. So I'll buy.
I can see it either way, but
because that's
now that both are in the SEC.
Yeah, that's the one I've been kind of waiting for. But that will be a truly interesting when those do start, assuming we get one at some point. It'll be interesting to see which way does it go, what level of player are we talking about, and obviously what do both fan bases, how do they react? Do both, because the fan base that loses the player will try to convince the fan base that's getting him that he's garbage. Like that'll happen instantly. May not be true, but that's what they'll do.
Buy or sell number 2. You like the upside of the 2024 Texas wide receiver unit more than the 2023 Texas wide receiver unit that we just got finished watching.
Oh, that's interesting. I like the way you worded that. The upside of the receiving unit more than the 2023 upside. Man, this was a really good group. You just said wide receiver, so we take tight end out. So Jatavian Sanders is not a part of the equation. Boy, I tell you, it's damn close, but based on production, and this is the beauty of the portal, I'll say buy. I do think it has a chance to maybe notch up a little bit if everything fills in the way you want it to, and Jonte Cook takes a step. Yeah, I think it's a buy.
And you've got Ryan Wingo somewhere in that mix as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, buy.
Buy or sell number 3. Alabama is still a preseason top 10 team going into 2024.
I think that's a buy, but based on what will be put together, the coaching staff it's not like this is it will not be the Armageddon that some Bama fans will create it out, make it out to be. They're going to have that other portal window opportunity, and Kalen DeBoer is a damn good football coach. They're going to have to lean back on just some substance and not worry about all that Alabama style. But yeah, I think they'll get the respect of being top 10. We'll see if they can live up to it.
Buy or sell number 4. Okay. This one is complicated.
Here we go.
Of the 8 remaining NFL quarterbacks in the playoffs,
Dak, Hurts, pay attention.
Patrick Mahomes is greater than Lamar Houston, who is greater than Josh Allen, who is greater than CJ Stroud, who is greater than Brock Purdy, who is greater than Jordan Love, who is greater than Jared Goff, who is greater than Baker Mayfield.
Oh, my God.
Or you could look at it as Mahomes 1, Jackson 2, Allen 3, Stroud 4, Purdy 5, Love 6.
So this is the buy or sell ranking of this. Mahomes, Jackson, Allen. Then you go Stroud. Then, oh, man.
Would you change anything about that order?
See, I think this, for me, I'm going to turn this into like one golfer versus the field. I think I'm going to take the field and sell. I'm going to say there's something about that order that could be slightly changed. What
is it?
Like, I feel like you could probably adjust where Jordan Love is on that list.
Would you take Jordan Love over Brock Purdy?
No. I'm thinking the other way. I'm thinking you could give one of those guys at the back end a little love over Jordan Love.
Oh, wow.
Right now.
Okay.
That by putting Jordan Love there,
By the way,
might be,
this isn't my personal rankings.
yeah, that might be a
This is
little
how I
recency.
wrote this out.
That might be a little recency bias. Also, I could get snarky and I could notch CJ Stroud up above Josh Allen. Chance Mock wouldn't want to hear it, but I could do it if I really wanted to. So I'm gonna sell, but I love the exercise. These 8 guys are really interesting, all different types, styles. Only one guy obviously is in the ring club. The others are trying to find it. It's a hell of a group.
I think Jared Goff and Brock Purdy are more alike than they're not.
That may be true. And if it is true, that's good news for Detroit fans.
Absolutely. All right. And finally, we got a prime on prime in buy or sell number 5.
Okay.
But we're talking about smiles.
Oh, I love a good smile. You're coming right to my wheelhouse.
Smile. Prime on prime. Julia
Prime on prime.
Roberts' smile greater / better than Emma Stone's smile.
All right, hang on. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to imagine some of my favorite smiles from each. They both have great smiles. Julia's smile, very big.
It's the most famous smile, but is it the best smile?
Big smile, very toothy. Julia, big smile. Looks like she's got 58 teeth. But when Emma...
Because she's kind of the Julia of today.
Kind of, yeah. The mouth, it's a smaller smile, but it's still big in energy. It's got a lot to it. I just recently saw her on an award show, and we get, boy, that is tough. That is tough. It's well constructed. Julia Roberts' smile is better than Emma Stone's smile. Wow, man, I'm gonna buy.
It has to be Julia.
I think it's damn close. Here's why. Julia's smile more often leads to a either mild or voracious laugh that I really enjoy. Emma can get there, but it's not as effective and energetic as Julia. I'm going Julia.
I think she's got the all-time smile. I do love Keira Knightley's smile, though.
Keira Knightley, also great smiles. Great smile.
Give me your 5.
Tomorrow's crap bag, great smiles. That's all we're doing. The whole show. The whole damn show. And your number 4. We're going to rate the quarterbacks and smiles, and we'll do it all. All right, Catch, here we go. Buy or sell. Number 1, Texas basketball. Back in action tonight, 7 o'clock LHN if you want to watch. Bracketology has them out as of today, and you agree.
Buy, because they know more than I do.
Okay, fair enough.
I know that Texas has been ranked as recent as this past week. They were number 25 in the country, but they constantly keep being listed in the last 4 out, next 4 out. Yeah, as of today, I think they'd be out.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, again, 7 o'clock tonight, they host UCF. Buy or sell, number 2, Catch. Isaiah Bond will face Caleb Downs in October in Austin. Downs goes to Georgia.
Buy. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Georgia's going to be the benefactor of this. I think there are several reasons why, but they're the odds-on favorite to land Caleb Downs. He's a fantastic player, and everybody in Austin will get to see him up close next October.
Dude, if you love Alabama, I wouldn't watch that game at all. Bond wearing burnt orange goes across the middle, and Caleb Downs wearing red and blacks trying to deal with him. That's your worst nightmare. Your worst. Well, I guess right beside Caleb Downs wearing red and black a few weeks before in Tuscaloosa. That's your first nightmare. Whew. All right, Catch, let's stick with that. Buy or sell, number 3. Alabama has at Wisconsin, Georgia at home, at LSU, and at OU on this year's schedule. You think they go 3-1 in those games?
So, as of today, I think Alabama looks like a 9-3 type of team. And I think Georgia, LSU, Oklahoma, at least 2 of those 3. I would say Georgia and LSU right now stand out to me as games that at this point I could see them losing for sure. I don't think about Wisconsin. That's so early. I don't know. Remember Alabama was slow starting this year. Had they played Wisconsin the week that they played, what was it, South Florida? What was the team they played?
South Florida,
right?
Yes.
Like, how different does that game look if there's no Jalen Milroe and they're just trying to figure themselves out. I don't know, but right now I'm going to say not 3-1 in those games.
By the way, you think they're going to be ready to jump around in Wisconsin now with Alabama coming in a little wounded? That'll be interesting. All right, buy or sell number 4, Catch. Your Wednesday gut is Detroit and San Francisco in the NFC and Kansas City and Baltimore in the AFC.
I almost asked you this exact question,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it's too early in the week. I'll save it for later in the week, and that's what led me to the quarterback question.
That's perfect. See, we staggered it. Well done.
We did. Otherwise, we would have been like brains in the same place. I'm going to sell. I'm going to take Buffalo over Kansas City.
Ooh, okay. What a battle that's going to be in Buffalo. All right, and finally, Catch, let's see what you do here. Buy or sell number 5. Today is Andy Kaufman's birthday. We're doing a wrestling fan time machine, and I'm taking you back.
Okay.
You'd rather go see Kaufman versus Lawler in Memphis than JYD versus Michael P.S. Hayes in the dog collar match in New Orleans.
Bye.
Oh, okay. I think I'm with you.
The Kaufman-Lawler thing is just too historic.
It's too iconic. It's too culturally important. Like, people that don't like wrestling know what I'm talking about. If I say Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler, can you imagine what that? I think they put about 11,000 in that place in Memphis, and they would just pack it to the rafters.
Well, and it's
for those two.
I remember Lawler, but I never saw Lawler really in his prime to know what he eventually becomes.
Yeah.
I think I would just want to go. And while all of that is taking place, I'd like to be in a corner somewhere close enough that both of them can hear me, right?
Right.
And I just want to go, puppies! Over and over again. And, you know, and would that then become the thing that led Lawyer to say puppies every time?
Ah, I see. You want to be that guy. You want to do the Marty McFly and go back in time and imprint it in his brain. That's great. That is wonderful. By the way, one of my favorite goofy little crap bag facts, Andy Kaufman and Jim Carrey have the same birthday. This is kind of weird. Just a weird little fact for you. All right, before we get out of here, let me remind everybody once again about sinus and snoring specialists. Do you know what I heard from my wife's side of the bed last night? Nothing. It's so fantastic. Used to be all kinds of snoring and sounds I didn't like because it sounded like somebody was taking a garden hose and then just pinching it. And it was scary because my wife was stopping. She would stop breathing a lot while she was snoring. Her incidences per hour was way over what it needed to be, but now she knows she's sleeping like she needs to. She got an app on her phone that gives her a grade every night with this CPAP machine. She's doing really well with it. That might be your path, or maybe it's more of the path I've been on, which was the balloon sinuplasty procedure. Get rid of the allergies for good, and I have a dental device that I wear each night. Everybody's going to be different, but the great thing about sinus and snoring specialists is they're going to take the time to find out what is right for you. And they are the very latest, the most cutting edge stuff in ear, nose, and throat. So get on in there, meet Dr. Slaughter. I know some of you have done it and mentioned Orange Bloods Live. I do appreciate that. We appreciate it here and all your support. Sinus and snoring specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. Silence in the bed, Catch. It's not always a good thing, but when you're sleeping, it's a great thing. You know what I mean? Sometimes you want noise in the bed, but I was having noise in the bed when you want silence in the bed. Now I've got silence in the bed when I need it. That was good. And then as I say that, Blake, the super producer, says, all right, wrap it up.
The best thing was the garden hose part of that. Like, I didn't completely understand that metaphor.
Dude, that's what
I enjoyed it.
So, you know, when we were kids and you'd take the garden hose and you would like kink the garden hose, right? You'd bend it and you could just stop it. That's what it sounded like was happening with my wife when she was snoring. She would go, it sounded like somebody was choking the woman. It was terrible. And now it's been fixed. That's what I'm trying to say.
You know how we know when Brian Jones's wife is either home or not home?
Yeah.
We know Chad's wife doesn't watch the videos. We know. She would be horrified if she had just heard any of that. If she just heard any of that, she'd be like, how are you talking about me in the middle of the show? Sherry, don't you tell her. Don't you tell Wendy.
Oh my God. I'm learning with this YouTube thing, Ketch, that all kinds of people are watching that may not have watched back in the day, including my mother, my father. Who knows?
Okay, we need to wrap it up.
Hey, you know what, South End Zone Queen? Too many sheepless nights in Chad's bedroom. I could get mad at you, but that's a good play on words. I do appreciate that. All right. Somebody says Chad doesn't just count sheep in bed. Okay, Cotton. Okay. Fair enough. All right. That'll about wrap it up. Thanks to Blake, the super producer, not only for giving me the wrap-up sign, but for all his great work today. Remember, 2:00, football with friends. 4:00, we're back with the recruiting show. And my God, is there a lot to get to today? We'll start with the portal. We'll talk recruiting, everything that Alabama is losing right now and how that could affect Texas and other schools. We'll hit that at 4:00. Tonight in the Outsiders at 9, we'll get the guys' response to what's gone on in the NFL. Chance Mock will have a big smile on his face because his Bills are still in the playoffs. And who knows, maybe even a little Jeff Ketchum at 9:15 on the Outsiders tonight. The Outsiders have put in a request for Jeff Ketchum because there's so much going on. They're trying to compute everything. Thanks to everybody for liking, subscribing, and getting those notifications. Up over 18,400 now in terms of subscribers. Thank you for helping us increase that number. It's free to become a subscriber to the Orange Bloods live channel, so go ahead and do that. Until 12 noon tomorrow, everybody be safe and stay warm out there. We are house divided. See ya.